I started watching Hell's Kitchen as well.
Hell's Kitchen? And the Gordon Ramsay thing.
I like Gordon Ramsay.
Thank you very much for joining this episode of Film Club. I am one your host, Andy Harrison. To my right, as always, it's the Gordon Ramsay loving Andy Dalton.
I didn't expect that as an intro. That threw me off.
Every single week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a cinema with us, watch a film with us, while we explore some of cinema's best. Andy, what have we been exploring this week?
Stuff with planets, not Interstellar. I was trying to make an idea. We're exploring galaxies, nebulas, and wormholes.
Yep.
So Interstellar.
Interstellar from Christopher Nolan.
Is this our first Nolan?
This, I think, is our first Nolan. Following on from last week where we looked at 2001 A Space Odyssey in celebration of it turning 50 years old.
As if this is our first Nolan.
Looking at Nolan's epic sci-fi. What is it about? What is the story of Interstellar?
Interstellar's based a generation into the future, there's a generation or two into the future, and it's essentially where the Earth has become slightly uninhabitable.
Do they put a year on it? They don't, do they? You just made me think
they
that
don't, I
generation.
don't think they do. Basically, I remember when the guy who plays Dexter, I'll go into it in a bit,
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, the granddad.
Yeah, you can carry on the story. I
Right,
can't remember
okay.
his name either.
Cheers, mate. So yeah, it's where the Earth's become unhospitable due to the crops failing, due to dust. This thing called dust that just knocks everything everywhere, makes there's loads of air. The crops are just dying, basically. So the idea is they need to get off the Earth. Turns out that a farmer who was a previous astronaut finds this anomaly in his house, which is due to gravity. Him and his daughter share a fascination with this. It leads the bits of gravity, he transcribes it via binary code, finds
And also Morse code, I think they use at the same time.
Morse codes for binaries for the coordinates to NASA.
Yep.
And then Morse codes for the watch at the end. You can tell I just watched it. Now, they actually find the coordinates, and it turns out this building, it turns out it's NASA. NASA's like, come on, we've got this mission, we've got plan A, plan B, we need you because you're our best pilot, our only pilot. And he's like, I can't leave my daughter and shit. And then she gets pissed off. She actually says, for the good of humanity, I need to do this mission. Thinking he's going back to his daughter. So they go him with a team of the astronauts through a wormhole, because actually NASA have found out that these other beings have given them access to like a wormhole and other planets, galaxies that are actually hospitable, that where there's no this blight, this dust. So they go through the wormhole, look at these planets, and they find 3 different ones who previous astronauts had gone through and said, yes, I'm decent, and no, I'm not decent, in terms of...
That's something I haven't heard back from.
Yeah.
They just know that someone went there.
Orbit's a black hole.
I think.
And then it's about them visiting the planets and what happens after.
Ooh. So, Interstellar. Did we got the same to see this together?
Yeah.
How did you feel about it? How did you feel about it then compared to now?
It's one of my favourites of sci-fi in Nolan, and I always really, really enjoy it because I like the amount of effort to put into it. So if we just go on the start, like if you think about Christopher Nolan, with this film, he actually spoke to a lot of... there was a particular physicist in general that he, who I believe, helped produce a book with him on this, and they both wrote it together alongside Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother. And for example, if you look at the scene with the black hole, the accretion, if that's the right way to pronounce it, accretion disk, they did loads of scientific studies on how that actually would look from a third person, from a perspective of someone in the third dimension. And actually speaking of dimensions, you've got this stuff about how gravity goes through space-time. Time in itself is seen as a measure, something that's like left, right, and centre. So whereas it's
a dimension.
Yeah.
Like they call it their 5th dimension, don't they?
Yeah.
The idea of like being able to experience time in a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my god, is this thing researched like crazy, and like you can see it. It feels like the most grounded sci-fi I think I've ever seen. In terms of like, whenever we approach something that's odd, they take the time to kind of go through it and explain how it works.
I think that this and The Martian do that.
The Martian's also, yeah, good call.
But because obviously our first episode of the deal where we did The Martian,
Both Matt Damon.
it was always that funny thing where it's I can't remember the other film he's in, but it's so many billions of pounds and 3 films have been spent to rescue Matt Damon. I can't remember the third film, but he'll tell us, it'll come up here. So there's all those, and it's great how they don't rush into it. They reference a lot of physics in there. You know, you got like Murphy's law. They got Newton's third law, like when Cooper has to leave at the end. And it's really nice that incorporation of just physics in there. It makes you, like me and my mate Kia, right, and Emma actually as well. Sorry, I can't not say Emma as well. We fucking love like space, astrology. I think it is astronomy. It's astronomy, isn't it?
And astrology, whichever one you're talking about.
One's to do with star signs, and the other's to do with planets.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I can never remember which one's which. Basically, one's to do with
astronomy is stars.
Cool.
No. Fuck knows.
Either way, we love it. We love that. So this film, like seeing it, all the scientific stuff behind it, was like a big wet dream for us. So I don't think
I've ever heard of somebody having a collective wet dream before. It's kind of gross.
So we really loved it, and to find out more actually how the researcher went into it, if I can try and grab that guy's name, and it made me love it even more.
Just for the record, astrology is the star signs.
Is it? 'Cause I think that's supposed to be the correct way. I remember someone reading somewhere and they stole it. But then you move on past that. We'll leave the writing as it is for now, in terms of, I believe that as research. But then you move on to something like the cast. You've got Matthew McConaughey here, right? He was always not necessarily typecast, but he was typecast as the ladies' man. You know, the one, all right, like that.
And then he'd had a little bit of a dip before this and before Dallas Buyers on that sort of that period. And then
he just comes out with
God, does he come back in this?
And then Dallas Buyers Club.
Great.
In the space of 2 years, he's like, what the fuck?
I adore his performance in this. I adore like most performances in this. Actually, I think everyone's immensely well cast, especially we were talking about earlier, John Lithgow.
That's it, Grandad.
But Matthew McConaughey, like, I know coming out of this, some people had complaints that he grumbles too many of the lines.
I like that.
It's perfect.
It's
perfect. Like, he makes this really believable character who rides this line of like being a farmhand, but also this like experienced engineer pilot guy. And it's wonderful. Like he's part of the reason this whole thing feels grounded throughout.
I feel with McConaughey as well. I mean, if we give a shout out to Anne Hathaway as well, I think she's brilliant. I love their chemistry and her chemistry.
Can't agree with that, but okay. I don't like Hannah Hathaway.
What, as an actress?
As a person.
Fuck you, Anne Hathaway.
I actively hunt her down and shout things at her in the street.
No, I liked it, and I like the chemistry in this. I like how the art goes from she's like a bit pissed off with Cooper, then they actually really grow one another together. Michael Caine as well, but you have like characters like the
Michael Caine. To take a moment, to have a look at Michael Caine down here.
Michael Caine. Anne Hathaway, you have Michael Caine, who are more scientific people. I feel like Cooper's a really good way of transcribing that information, that scientific kerfuffle that many like the layman might hear, and making it into a more understanding like format. The irony that I can't produce my fucking sentences.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a little bit because I know where we're going to go with this conversation. Cool. We'll come back to that idea in a second.
So for me, the acting was great, and how McConaughey just he led the way.
Little shout out the kid who plays Little
Jessica
Murph.
Chastain, yeah, she's great. But Little Kiddo Murph, yeah, awesome.
Great casting as well. Like, you can kind of believe that those two are the same person.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that earlier because when you see Jessica Chastain, then you go into the they're in the what's it called, the cube thing at the end.
Oh, the Tesseract.
Tesseract, that's the word. And then you see Jessica Chastain, you see Little Murph, and I'm like, well played. So I loved how that kind of like holds you through. It's your constant. And of course, if we go on about what we did last week, because I know you want to say some bad things about this film, because he fucking ruined it for me.
I've got loads of good stuff to say about this film.
For me, a big constant, and one of the reasons we chose to do this after 2001 Space Odyssey is the sound.
Oh my God, the sound in this film. Right, side note, I had a conversation recently with somebody. I've heard online people complain about this film being like too loud. I've heard people talk about having a horrible audio mix. And I recently spoke to somebody in person who I just thought those like internet trolls that don't really exist out in the world. Spoke to somebody last week who has that exact opinion, that this film has a bad audio mix. What? What?
Did this win any awards for its audio? I can't remember.
I'm not sure, but revisiting this, right? One thing did strike me, which I will give a small amount of credit to that idea. I think this film is perfectly, exquisitely mixed for both headphones and particularly cinemas. Now, me living in an apartment where I have people below me, I was riding the volume a little bit because like they're kind of mumbling and they're right down here. And then there's like, So I've got to like bring the volume up and down a little bit when I'm just like, I'm aware of my neighbours. I don't want to piss them off. But headphones and cinema screens, fuck me, is this a beautifully created piece of sound work. Not even to mention the music.
Yes. What I really enjoyed is how it stayed true, much like 2001, to the use of a vacuum and how there's no sound. You have those amazing shots, which we'll go on in a second.
I know it's actually tricky because you mentioned it last week. I thought it was really cool when I was listening to it, and like the stuff where it's an explosion in space, you don't hear it.
Yeah. Or like where you hear, you slowly hear the sound pass away, like when his helmet's broke, because obviously escaping, or when Matt Damon, he explodes and you hear a bit of sound, then it just dies out because the vacuum comes. Exceptional. Well played. Sound design as well like that. You have this, it's kind of hard to do, it's stuff we know already in terms of landing in the planets and stuff like that. But then we go on to the music, which is Hans Zimmer. Anyone knows Hans Zimmer just knows anything he touches is gold. Yeah. Like genuinely.
Particularly when he's working with Nolan. He's done like a long time collaboration with him.
He's done Inception, anyone's heard Time, like my favourite Hans Zimmer song. He's done many, many great things. He's basically the John Williams of our generation.
But this is like in a very different way, yeah. Like they're stylistically very
hugely different, yeah.
Hugely. But yeah, this is up there to compete for one of my favourite Hans Zimmer scores.
It's something I listen to quite frequently on Spotify. In fact, it's the one I listen to most frequently on Spotify in terms of soundtracks. This or Shane Carruth.
And the bits that hammer it home for me, there's this sort of like, I know there's interviews with Nolan where he talks about this idea that he got Hans Zimmer to create
free
something.
reign, doesn't it? Almost.
Gave him kind of free reign and then told him it was like this big sci-fi epic.
Yeah, so Hans Zimmer gave her this idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then what he requested was like, they went back to the idea of using big church organs. And the notion behind that being that
it was a really good documentary.
People used to when they're back when we were kind of religious folk who used to look up at the stars and just dream of it ever kind of getting out there. Was they would use these big church organs as the closest thing they could do to emulate this idea of someone who was grand and beyond them and outside of the human experience.
You see these church organs, there's some of the pipes like that.
Yeah, so like the same way we now look at space travel, this is this like untangible thing. So he applied those sort of acoustic techniques to that.
Honestly, there's a documentary going on about it, whether or not it's from the Interstellar DVD. It's superb. Yeah, sorry?
I have no idea where it's from.
I will link it and put it in the description because it's fantastic. So Hans Zimmer's killed it with this. There's times where people argue that the music's too loud. Fuck off. It's part of the experience of Interstellar.
It is. And do you know what? You've used a perfect word there, is an experience. Fuck off. It's an experience. That's what they're going for. They're not going for you need to hear every second of the dialogue, because if the dialogue's unimportant, get fucking rid of it. Yeah, slap some music over the top of it.
You listen to soundtracks now and you know which songs are associated, which scene. Mountains, that great use of the clock in Mountains, like, and then as soon as you see the hills come up, you hear that clock, that tick, double the speed, because time, the shot and time. That is hands down one of the best pieces of music in film relating to that moment I've ever heard. My favourite
actually links to one of my favourite scenes in the film, which I can't remember. I couldn't tell you which piece of music. It's those two notes that just play. Ding, ding. And it's when Coop he's come back from the water planet, and they're watching. Coop's sitting down. He's watching all the messages from his son, and you just have those.
That actually might be the end of Mountains. Which Mountains is the one which I'm on about, yeah.
It's a really great scene. It comes off like this film is huge in scope. They go from like Earth to space through a wormhole to multiple planets, and like there's time that's bending around. But then he has like these little carved out moments which are very human experiences.
Yeah,
and that's what makes this film brilliant.
As she says, Anne Hathaway, love transcends time and space.
Oh fuck that scene! But then to marry up what makes this film like beautiful to experience.
You're going to cinematography.
Is marry that audio design, all that music with cinematography.
Hoyt van Hoytema.
Yeah, so. Shot by one of my favourite cinematographers working at the moment.
Him and Deakins, two favourites.
For a long time, Wally Pfister had worked with Nolan on a bunch of his films, and Wally Pfister went off and decided he was going to try and make his own film, direct his own film, I should say. And then that let Nolan open to work with a guy called Hoyt van Hoytema.
Hoytema, sorry.
This is one of the most beautiful looking and sounding, most beautiful crafted sci-fi films ever.
Yeah, if you just want a film where you can, I'm sure you'll agree, sit down, relax, be in awe of the visual, be in awe of the sound and the music.
Yeah, like what they do is they marry up this idea of, can we have half of it shot like an actual NASA expedition? You know, you got almost shaky cam in some of the cabins and stuff. And then
I love the shots on the lander. Where
stuff on the lander, yeah. It
like
feels
you see that in Dunkirk. He does it in Dunkirk as well.
It feels like something which is like that's how NASA would mount their cameras to that object. And then the other half of it, this like beautiful sort of experience of showing you the scale they're dealing with. Like one of my favorite moments is when they're passing Saturn.
Gargantua. Oh, Saturn, yeah.
And you just see this tiny little speck that is the ship.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful.
There's a really good scene as well in terms of cinematography, and it's because they have robots in this film. So they have Case and Tars. Tars is the humorous one. Case is the quiet one. Case is my favourite in this. He's just boss. Case. He's the pilot. He's just boss. Anyway, point is, the idea is again in 2001 they had AI. Just on a little tangent I forgot to mention earlier. The idea of AI and humanising that AI, which is something we missed when we were on about 2001. I'm sorry. That lovely, amazing moment there. We will speak more when we do 2001 in the future.
Well, you can see 2001's DNA all over this film. So
much. But one point is more on the way. You see McConaughey's Cooper's relationship with Tars, and there's a great moment when Tars is about to leave, detach into the Gargantua, into the black hole, and the camera zooms in, which I believe adds.
It personifies the object.
Yeah, there we go. So well played, Hoytema.
It's great. So then, after all this loveliness, wonderful, epic, amazing construction of a film, you have Nolan's biggest weakness. We've made reference to this in multiple Film Club episodes. Give us the word.
Lazarus.
Lazarus represents Nolan's ear-scraping dialogue. So sitting there in the cinema for the first time watching this film, and I'm kind of aware of Nolan's problem
I'm fucking sat a few weeks
with dialogue.
Away from him, yeah.
The problem with dialogue, by the way, if anyone's not aware, exposition. The idea that Christopher Nolan cannot help but make 90% of his dialogue exposition. So I'm sitting there in the cinema, and we're on Earth. It's cool, it's dusty, it's got great atmosphere. It's a really interesting concept for a sci-fi film. And everyone's explaining things to me. I'm like, right, okay, right. It's a space. It's just like a whole space expedition. We're going to get off the ground. It'll be fine. We're getting the rocket ready. Okay, we're going up. Everyone's explaining how things work. Whatever, it's fine. We get into space, and I'm like, yes, we're aware. We don't need anything explained to us anymore. The guy picks up like a bit of paper, and he's sticking a fucking pencil through it, and then like.
That was a bit cliche.
Like, right, okay.
I'll give you that. That was a bit cliche.
Like, right, okay, we're getting away from this. We will get away from the expedition eventually. And it never happens. It never happens. It never stops explaining things to me throughout this entire film. And the one moment that I always point to like exemplify this
Ruined
is a scene.
Film for me.
It's a scene where they have gone to this planet and have found Matt Damon, who is literally called Dr. Man, right? And now he's sitting there in his stupid little space blanket, and we've already found out about the name of the space expedition and what the whole concept, what the
mission,
the first what the thing's about.
It's called Lazarus.
Yeah,
raising humanity from the dead.
Sitting there in his stupid little space potato blanket, and they've just woken him up, and he's going, "Oh my god, yeah, you literally brought me back from the dead." And it cuts to a shot of Matthew McConaughey who says nothing else other than Lazarus. And it cuts back to Matt Damon to continue. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? That is Christopher Nolan with a massive neon sign pointing at something and going, look at the themes of my film. These are the themes of my film. I know you're not smart enough to get it, so I'm going to point it out to you. He needs other people to rewrite the dialogue in his films. He seriously does.
Do you have time for his dialogue?
I have no time for your dialogue, Mr. Nolan. You need to change it. One of my favourite things about Dunkirk was that it got rid of so much dialogue.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
It almost solves that problem for him. If he wants to make another film where people speak,
and
he needs to get rid of that. Whoever is writing that dialogue, be it him, be it his brother. I know sometimes David Goyer works with him. Whoever it is that's writing that dialogue, stop and give it to somebody else. Stop treating your audience like they're an idiot. People go into Christopher Nolan films thinking that he's like the intellectual filmmaker of our age. No, he's not. He's the pseudo-intellectual filmmaker of our age. He's the guy that, like you were saying earlier, takes interesting high concept stuff. His concepts are great. He writes amazing concepts, right? Then what he does is he talks to you like you're a fucking idiot for 2 hours to make sure you understand all the complexities, this brilliance that he has managed to come up with. Christopher Nolan is a fantastic filmmaker who, for some reason, seems to think that his audiences are fucking idiots. Rant over.
That's your biggest rant and film.
And the most annoying thing is, I like Christopher Nolan.
He's brilliant.
I just want to watch his films on fucking mute, but I can't because the sound design's fucking brilliant.
True. I've been waiting to see that rant out in person for a long time. Like I've seen little clips of it here.
I always try not to rant about it because I know it's overblown, but it makes all the conversations, not all the conversations, most of the conversations in this film so painful to listen to. When the rest of the film, every other inch of this film, is fantastic.
Love transcends.
Lazarus. So there is Interstellar. You can let us know in the comments below what you thought of Interstellar and of Lazarus and of Christopher Nolan, and you can all throw hate at me for that. But you can also join us next week where we are rounding out this 3-part sci-fi epic of ours, where we are visiting a 70s classic sci-fi film from Andrei Tarkovsky.
Solaris.
Solaris.
I was trying to do Lazarus.
Thank you very much for joining us, guys, and listening to my rant. And
it is a good film. It is
much more comprehensive opinion
it's a good
of
film.
Interstellar. It's amazing. But we'll see you next week for Solaris.
All right.
No, I'm going to go cry now.